So with that, I want to bring Meghan up and our two other speakers to introduce themselves and get started.
I'll just briefly introduce, for those who don't know me, I am a local writer, director, producer, comedian, filmmaker, whatever. A lot of things I don't get paid to do. And but I also work, my day job's at Seed&Spark, which is an indie crowdfunding platform. So the cool thing about my day job is I get to talk to creators all day about making their own shorts, like I learned to do here in Austin, and which was really a testament to the community because I didn't go to film school. So I really relied on those who did go to film school and those who were doing it. And Way from Do Their Films was my first DP on my first short, so I learned a lot from him as well. But I'm excited to talk to these two filmmakers today who are also local to Austin about their experiences because they are at different stages in their career, different stages in their projects. So we can talk a little bit more about where they got to where they are today. Let's get into it. I will introduce them. So Kayla, right next to me, is a filmmaker who draws from her community's environment to tell immersive, textured, character-driven stories. Her latest short film, When You Left Me on That Boulevard, depicts the tension of a teenage girl at a family party as she harbors a big crush, and it is beautiful and sweet and lovely. I got to watch it. The film won the Short Film Grand Jury Prize at the 2023 Sundance Film Festival and a special jury award for vision at the 2023 South by Southwest Film and TV Festival. Yeah. And next to Kayla is Yola, who is a comedian and filmmaker based out of Austin, Texas. She is currently in post-production for her short film PATSY, which is also delightful because I got to read it and act in it. I'm really excited to see a cut, and that is about a divorced stand-up comedian who has hit rock bottom. When she's not working on PATSY, she can be seen performing with her all-female troupe, Garage, every Thursday and hosting live at Cold Town every Saturday. So give it up for Yola.
Be sure to start with my bio first and then go over to Kayla's after.
Okay. I think it's important. Like, I could have listed so many other credits because you came in from the comedy space, and we'll talk about this. Because Yola came in as Yola actually was one of the first stand-up that you were on my late night show that time. I'm not the first headliner. And then you were a guest when you were working under Femby. I think it was like a couple episodes in. This is like 2015. So like you were doing so much in the comedy scene, and I related to that because like I had to figure out what I wanted to do in comedy before I found film and figured out like what my voice is and how that translates from my live comedy. So you have a lot of credits. You just didn't list many of them. IMDb doesn't depict all the things that we spent like a shit ton of money pursuing. But as sort of related to that, like there's not one single way to break into filmmaking and screenwriting. Some people go to film school, some people like decide way later in life, some people come through the like live comedy route. So I wanna ask you about your creator origin story. So when did you know you wanted to pursue a creative career, and what were the major steps you took to get to where you are today as a multi-hyphenate?
Do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. I suppose. Okay. Well, I grew up watching movies with my family. It was like a big ritual to go to like a matinee every weekend. So I grew up consuming television and film quite a bit. But I'd say that like I didn't really perceive like filmmaking as a thing to do or a way to be until my parents got digital cable. And I got to see like more like niche and weird programming on like the Sundance and IFC channels. And when I was old enough, got to watch like Adult Swim. That's pretty sick. And so I started, I guess, identifying like a space for me and getting to make, the things I really wanted to make, and things I was already imagining in my head since I was a kid. And so at that point, I started taking like media technology courses at my local high school, some career center, and then went to film school at UT to kind of like flail around on set with friends, just kind of like a really safe space to learn. And then after that, like I just really wanted to pay rent, and so I did like wedding photography, worked in social media, like content marketing, just kind of like wore a lot of different hats to kind of like kept me adjacent to the filmmaking space, but not necessarily in the filmmaking space. And then the pandemic happened, and I was kind of sitting with my thoughts, just like everyone else. And so I'd say like my career as it's taking shape now was really like shaped by the pandemic, and that one of my friends invited me to do this like community video art project remotely, and so I got to make one of my last short films called Learning to Develop with Kayla, like within the confines of my apartment, and really got to have like a creative playground and kind of like get myself reintroduced to the filmmaking process. And so it's been a really funny, long, windy journey, but it's fine.
And Yola, yeah, I feel like, and I hate saying like, the pandemic did a lot for my career, because it did in different ways. Like it pushed us in certain ways that we might not have gone. I was just talking to someone how I got laid off from like a production company job, that if I stayed in there, I probably would not have, gone out and done all the creative work I've done since then. So, yeah, what is your creative origin story? Because you came from the live performing side.
Yeah, so I did stand-up comedy. I do stand-up comedy, and that's how I kind of got started in all of this. But in terms of like filmmaking, so my first project was actually a web series that I did in 2017 or 2018. And it was after seeing like the success stories like Broad City, Insecure, High Maintenance, like all of these like movies that came from web series, and then I was just like, oh, this is like a potential route to get like where you could make your own stuff and you could have people watch it like a short little episodic thing. And then so I set out to do that with like a very small budget with a very small team. I'm sorry, that was my phone. But
So busy.
I'm sorry. It's not my mom. My mom, never mind. Okay. So that's kind of how I got into that. But then one of the main reasons I wanted to do that was because I really, really want to act and be an actress. Like that's why I got into a lot of things that I did. And I just felt like nobody was casting me in these roles that I really wanted to do. So I just wrote roles for myself and then produced things by myself. And that's, if you look at my reel, that's like where a lot of my own projects come from and everything just from my own projects. But it was really just like wanting to literally see myself represented on screen in roles that were more than just like these side characters and things like that, like being like, nobody's gonna cast me as the lead, so I'm gonna write that role for myself. So, yes.
So Kayla, you, as someone with a few indie shorts under your belt, how has the process of making film independently on your own, whether like prompted from a friend or an idea that you had yourself, how has that prepared you for your next projects, which are 2 feature films, if you want to talk about those?
Yeah, I'd say that working in the independent filmmaking space really gave me a sense of what I like truly value in a collaborative space. Just with all of like the various gigs I've had, I've been exploited, I've been shouted at, I've been yelled at, I've worked long hours, and I was like, oh crap, I actually don't like any of those things. And so I've really gotten to like build community around independent filmmaking and kind of like having autonomy over, just like the stuff I want to make. And in building community, like I've gotten to like meet people who are as like soft as I am and value not working, more than 12 hours or really more than 10 hours. And care about conflict resolution and moving through conflict thoughtfully together. And so that's something I've started to bring into the feature filmmaking space as I've like started to develop my features. And like unfortunately, as I've like started to meet more people in the industry, I'm finding that it's really hard to stay true to those values, or to like do without being made fun of or severely criticized or, you know, being told that I'm weak, unfortunately. So that's something I'm kind of wrestling with right now. But it's really nice to feel anchored by my community in all this and having people that truly know me, my artistry, and you know, are willing to like not only like uplift me, but like generatively disagree with me and challenge me and stretch me in ways that I didn't think I could be stretched. So yeah, still figure out the component of like how do I take these values into the feature filmmaking space, especially as I meet more people in the industry who work in the industry. It's tough.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think like the people I've talked to who have gone from, who are like kind individuals who care about the people on their sets, usually they're from like the indie film scene, and then I see them move into the feature space and have to fight for their vision of like what a set should look like and how people should be treated on set, because it is not, unfortunately, and like, you know, this is why we've seen the IATSE strike, what was it, last year, the WGA strike going on right now, like there are people who have created these systems that are the opposite of how, like it is working for them. And we are creating these like incremental changes that don't fit within that system, and that's why we are like coming up against their, you know, so-called like rule book for doing things. Like being a dick was like how you got ahead in the industry, and now we're like, actually, you can like, if you listen to I think the editor from Everything Everywhere All at Once, it was like, actually, we had normal hours, and it proved that you did not have to burn your crew out to make something wonderful and great. Like you do not have to do that. And like, yeah, surprise. Like I had those shitty day jobs that I was like that production company was like 18-hour days, 20 hours, unnecessary, and no overtime. And so you don't have to kill yourself. Like hustle culture, I think, can be really toxic. And I think like once you allow yourself to be the person in charge on set and like fuck the people calling you weak, because I hate that shit. It's like, I think the weak people are the people who are like have these fragile egos and then it comes out in these like abusive ways to their crew. Anyway, I can talk all day about how like I want you to run the industry and not the people who do. But I want to hear from Yola about like what the process has been like going into like a new comedy medium. Like you had a web series, and that was like the way you were first testing out the waters of like applying your jokes, and then you did a wow, which was like front-facing, really fun monologue video. So like, what has been the process for you going from like a more like live, instant kind of comedy performance, like improv, sketch, and stand-up, to now something like we were just talking about post, like something that takes a little bit more time and is challenging in different ways, such as filmmaking?
Yes. So I would say, like exactly what you said, doing live performance is instant. Like it's your feedback that you get from the audience. Like you want to try out a new joke or you want to try out a new premise, you immediately know if it works or not just by the audience reaction. And you could like fine tune a set or at least fine tune a joke just in the matter of like a few days and stuff if you go to enough mics. And with filmmaking, I'm very new to filmmaking. I didn't go to film school or anything, and I'm like finding it to be such a long process, so long, because it's just like you hire people, and then of course they need to take like a few days to do things. But what I'm finding to be the hardest thing right now is even to get to a locked cut for the film, because I feel like the more people you show it to, you have all this like feedback coming to you, and then you don't know if it's like a good thing or not, because in joke telling, it's like if you have laughs, then it's like, oh, majority of the people like it. And then if you don't have laughs, then it's like, okay, you need to rewrite this or something. And then, but it's like you never really know, I feel like, with filmmaking, and I feel like with my short, I'm never gonna know what the right cut is going to be. And that uncertainty is very jarring for me to to think about that, like, if I don't get into like these certain festivals, is it because I didn't listen to this guy's notes and stuff like that? Like, who's the right person that I should be listening for the notes for? And then so, and then when you want to screen it to like test audiences, then it's like you like either have to do like a friends or family screening, basically hosting your own comedy show or something, and then getting feedback. But then that's already so far through the process that it's like, if it didn't do well, do you go all the way back and start rechanging everything again and then recutting everything? And then when you're ready to submit it to festivals, and then so I think it's like, I'm learning a lot about patience in this process, but it definitely has been like very shocking. And also the sticker price for this is like, it's not like, honestly, a very accessible medium for everybody to do, because you need, like, to make something with like good production value, you need like a lot of money, or you need to like, and you need to learn how to write a script and like all these things. And then so it's like, I do think that the entry is a little harder for filmmaking too.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And that's where, like, you know, the first things I also did was stage stuff where it was, you could show up. I mean, classes are expensive, but you didn't have to have a big crew around you. Like, you could be one person, unpaid comic, and perform and have your, art out there. But with film, it's like you're relying on all these different people for different skill sets, and you want to be able to pay them like an appropriate rate. And I've definitely noticed, and you guys can speak to this too, like when you start out like in college, there's an expectation where, okay, it's a barter system, we're helping each other out on projects, we're learning, but we all want this as full-time careers. So like during the pandemic, I learned like all of my friends who had gotten laid off, like they were dependent on this income, even though it was, my little comedy project, like I felt like I owe them to pay them a livable rate. And again, it's like how, like as someone who's not a Nepo baby, like how do I sustain that? So that's a good segue into like, what made you decide to crowdfund for your most recent projects? What was that like?
So for me, so I'll just be very transparent, but I mostly crowdfunded or funded my film through taking out a loan against my 401k. If you didn't know you could do that, you can, and you just like pay against it, and then even any interest that it accrues, it goes back into your 401k. So you're not really losing anything from it. It's just something that comes out of your paycheck. So it just kind of felt like a very easy loan to do, but there is a max to how much you can take out. So that's why I needed to crowdfund. And also because I didn't want such a big chunk to be coming out of my paycheck every month if I took out 2 loans instead. And then, so I went into the crowdfunding game, and I was very scared because I've always told everybody that like you could only have one crowdfunding campaign in your entire life, and one maybe for a creative project and one medical one, and then everything else like you just can't have any more because nobody will support you anymore. And then so I was just like, is this the right project to be asking people for money for? And then so I went into it because I just didn't want to be in even more debt than I am now. But I was honestly terrified to do any sort of crowdfunding because I was just like, nobody's gonna give me money, and like I don't like asking for money from people. I think it's like, it was just like an upbringing thing that like my parents like never allowed me to like ask for like money from other people. Like we never did those fundraising things where you knock on doors and stuff like that. And then so it was just like they just didn't like that wasn't like a thing. I think for most people, like it's like not a thing to like ask for money.
Yeah, crowdfunded on Indiegogo because I didn't know about Seed&Spark at the time in 2018. And it's very vulnerable, not only to be like, first short, like I'm asking people to support me as a first time, whatever it is, director, writer, producer. And I compared it to like if I had nudes, it felt like I was like leaking my nudes to like the internet. And then when I shared the film with people, it felt like I was live streaming my like gyno exam. Like it's just very vulnerable to, especially your first project, to be like, yeah, I'm gonna call, like it took me a while to even call myself a comedian or a writer or a director, because you're like, I'm not getting paid to do this, so does that count? But yeah, it's fucking hard to ask for money. I feel like it's like immigrant kids also like might be even another layer.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, like I definitely got shit and talked to other people who get shit from their family when they like do stuff like crowdfunding for their film projects. Cause it's like, first of all, you were supposed to go to get your MBA, and now you're out here publicly being an artist.
I was just gonna say, like, my parents were mortified when they found out that I had a crowdfunding campaign. And then especially the subject matter that I was talking about, which was like divorce and like miscarriage. They were just like, I can't believe you put this out for everybody to like hear and find out, and like, because they watched my like intro video and everything. And then my mom was like, and it also talks about suicide. She was like, I can't believe you're talking about like all of these experiences that you've had and everything. And then she just like thought it was, I'm definitely more open than her, but like she was, her and my dad were just like mortified that I would even ask strangers or my friends for money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relatable. Kayla, can you speak to your experience?
So I'm also in debt, and my grandma told me at Thanksgiving she felt sorry for me for crowdfunding.
And this is like, when you had gotten into, was it announced yet that you had gotten into?
This was 2 Thanksgivings ago, so
Oh,
this is like
okay.
way before.
But I mean, does she feel sorry for you now? Like all these like accolades?
I don't know.
Grandma.
Grandma, are you proud of me? Oh God. What was the question again? Why crowdfunding?
Choose crowdfunding. Yeah.
It felt like there was no other option, honestly, just because like short film funding is really hard. It's very sparse, it's highly competitive. I was 0 for 12 on all the grant applications over the course of making this thing, and so I didn't even want to crowdfund either, like for similar reasons, because like being that normal and like loud in everyone's DMs for like a whole month sucks.
Yeah.
So, my producer just told me to kind of like suck it up, kind of, and they were there for me, and so I was like, okay, let's crowdfund, let's do it. So it really just felt like the only option, honestly, especially in like this short film funding landscape, which is so barren.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, short films don't have a return typically. Like there's not a lot of distribution options, so it's hard to get people to invest who don't care about getting their money back, and they're like, I want to invest in you as a creator. There are people who exist, I'm still looking for them, but yeah, I will say like, because it's funny, like I work for Seed&Spark and I'm like, God, I don't want to ever crowdfund again. But like there is a way to do it that could not be so painful, because the way we think about it is like, first of all, there's so many people during the pandemic that got freaking rich as hell. And then like put up a black square, and they're like, I care about black and brown people. There are people we can take advantage of in the system that are beyond our friends and family. Because I was so dependent on like the people around me, and I had the same mindset. I can only do this once. And when I like got trained in like the Seed&Spark process, it's like, no, you're building your audience beyond just the people you know. Like these are people who should want to watch your work, who should want to support you. Like all these people who are like consuming media that don't realize like the people who write it are not getting paid a living wage, and the people who are profiting from it are, these dumb execs. So there are people out there. It's just like a matter of like finding the people who are like, oh shit, I had a similar experience growing up. Like I can relate to that story seen on screen, and like I want more of that, and that's where I'm gonna funnel my money. So it's, hard to, it's easier said than done, but there are people out there, the current processes are just hard because you think like grants or asking people I know. But it's just like a matter of like, how do we match make with the creators and these audiences who want to see this get made. But yeah, so if you're thinking about crowdfunding, you can talk to me after, and I'll try to make it not as scary for you. What would you say the biggest takeaways you learned from crowdfunding for your shorts? Like high level, good or bad?
I know that when I was creating my crowdfunding campaign, I had a friend that was like, oh, you shouldn't put an option for like executive producer at $1,000 because nobody would pay $1,000 for like your project or this project. Like he just was like so sure that like nobody would spend this amount, and I ended up having like 7 people like wanting to be executive producers. Which was very cool. Yeah, and then, but I was just like, that was one takeaway, that like kind of like trust your instinct on this, because I was just like, I know other people do this, like this is an option people have as your thing. But it was also like people, the other second takeaway is that people actually really want to support you and they want to see you succeed. And even people that you don't necessarily talk to all the time. So I was shocked by like the people that ended up like donating to my campaign. There were people that I haven't spoken to in like 5 years. There was one woman who ended up donating $4,000, and I haven't spoken to her in like forever. And I was just like, I can't believe you just like follow my stuff and want to actually support my projects and everything. So that was also another takeaway. And then, man, what's the third takeaway? I don't know if I have a third one right now.
You don't have to.
Okay. Okay. I have 2, so there we go.
We're breaking the rules.
Yeah.
I'd say biggest takeaway, like it's kind of piggybacking off what you said earlier about like matchmaking with your audiences and everything. I was like fully dreading crowdfunding, expecting it to be just like such a slog of a process. Like I'm just trying to beg my friends and family and their friends and family for money, but really it was community building, and it was like essentially like positioning the project for the people who were most like ready and willing to love it, which was really surprising. I actually like found half of my cast from like Seed&Spark, which was really because like people were sharing it left and right, people were about it, people were wanting to see something like made in their community, which is really awesome. So that was like a big surprise takeaway. Just also feedback off your answer, it's just like people are willing to support you, they want to see you succeed. Another thing, man, it was like a full-time job on top of a full-time job trying to manage his crowdfunding campaigns. That's something that you really need to consider before crowdfunding. What was lovely was that like I had a team of like 4 producers. We were all working full-time jobs during this campaign, and so like every day we were kind of like tag teaming each other to be like, can you take this? Can you take this? Because there's like a lot of community management involved, and you have to show accountability and that you're listening to your community as you're reaching out to them in this ongoing process. So it really meant a lot, and it was really pivotal for us to work together as a team to be able to cover all of these bases. Another cool takeaway actually by longtime friend and collaborator Matt Stryker, who's like our AD and co-editor. He came up with this idea called Dollar Day, where like we just asked everyone like in our last stretch for just like $1 or like just any like accessible way of support, and that actually carried us over the finish line. We raised like $2K in that one day, just from like asking people for $1 to like, at least like share and everything. And so it's really important to consider the ways in which people like need that access to be able to support you, whether that is sharing or whether it is $1 or $2. Like some people need $50 or $1,000. That's pretty sick. So I don't know. That was a really cool idea that I've just been wanting to like shout out from the mountain top. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, steal that.
Yeah,
Dollar
I want to
Day.
do that $1 day in my like everyday life. Like go home, I'm like, it's $1 day. Yeah, big, like we always say crowdfunding, it's audience building first, fundraising second, and then it is a team sport. Like, filmmaking is collaborative, crowdfunding is collaborative. You cannot do it alone. That was like a mistake I learned also, like working a full-time job, running a comedy show. Like, I burned myself out, and you're also in pre-pro, like a lot of times. Like, you're prepping for this project. So it's like, you're basically prepping for two shorts. It's like the campaign and then the actual project. So definitely build your team, have your team in place, don't do it alone. Besides just make the damn thing, what's the best advice you've received or told yourself for moving into the next stage of your creative career?
Sorry, I'd say, like, it's funny because I feel like I keep being like a dead horse by like talking about community building, but really, like, I have been with my collaborators for almost 10 years now. They know me inside and out. Again, like, they're willing to like uplift me and challenge me and disagree with me in very generative ways. And you know, when institutions weren't supporting us or giving us the material support that we desperately needed, like, I was really discouraged. And I think it's really important to have people who know your artistry, who know what your intent is and where you're going. That way, like, I don't know, there's some sort of like light at the end of the tunnel. They can tell you that it's gonna be okay. And I know, I'm finding that, like, as I move into this next phase of my career now, where I'm talking to like development studios and you know, reps and everything, I find that it's really important to be able to have those gut checks with my people who've known me since day one. So I just can't emphasize enough, like, having people in your corner and not just having people who see you as like dollar sign or as like a mode of profit. Because like, you know, after Sundance, like, it's honestly been a very like overwhelming and emotional and vulnerable time with people like, you know, trying to, I don't know, like, capitalize on what they feel is like, I don't know, checking a box or something.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, like, fun diversity initiatives that just see me as like, oh yeah, you're a Filipino woman filmmaker, can do this, right? Yeah, it's just really, it's really shitty. But it's been nice to have my people who just know me.
Yeah.
So that was a really long answer, but
No, that's a really great piece of advice for like getting to the next stage. Like, you've gone through the rejections, and then you had the success coming out of Sundance and South by, and a flurry of people like slide into your DMs. And these are people that don't know you and might not have the best interest in you. Like, you really have to suss out like who really cares about this type of work versus who just like saw the headline, saw the, you know, racial identifying, you know, descriptor. Because like, that shit happens all the time, and it I think the diversity has become a trend for some execs, and it's almost gotten worse because now the people who are, like, I almost would rather them be racist to me than to be like, I'm like co-opting like this, you know, identity that you have and this experience that you have and using it for like that. And because that just sucks, because, you know, it sucks to feel like you're being used and not looked at as like the creator first. But that is good advice to like have your home base, check in with them, because don't like sign with the first person who wants to sign you. What would you say is the best advice you've received or told yourself for this next stage, like as you shifted from more live comedy into filmmaking?
Yeah, you know, sorry. No, you're good. That was very adorable. What was I gonna say? I think the best advice that I've been like constantly telling myself is just that like life is too short. And that's how I've gotten into doing anything creative that has scared me. That's how I got into stand-up, because I was just like, if I don't try this, I'm probably gonna regret it when I die. And then, so I actually work in, like, I have a full day job. I work in the IT space right now, and then it's always been like eating at me that I can't do what I love like full time, and I don't know how to get to a point where I could do that full time, because I'm not at the level yet where I can pursue this like very professionally. But I tell myself, like, when I made this short film, I had a lot of sleepless nights because I kept thinking, like, what if I'm spending the amount of money that I could put for a down payment for a house or something on something that nobody wants to watch? And then I'm just like burning money. I'm like making it harder for me to get out of my job because I'm still in debt. And it's just like this like cycle of like making things going into debt and then having to stay in your day job because like nobody's writing me a big check to like get out of it. And so that was just something that I tell myself that like if I don't give this a shot, then I'm probably going to regret this for the rest of my life if I don't make the thing. So.
Yeah, it's a shitty process, but I try to think of it as an investment in myself because I didn't go to grad school, I didn't make all these other decisions, and hopefully at one day there's like a switch will flip and we'll be able to pursue this full time and like if the WGA gets what they're asking for, like this can be a sustainable career path. Right now, it definitely isn't. Like for sure, indie filmmaking is just like it's really hard. You're constantly in debt, or you're a rich kid's son. Like rich guy's son, whatever, rich person's person. But I just want to scream sometimes, like. Especially at Seed&Spark, because we interact with established filmmakers and like A-list, directors, and I want to be like, you have no idea how much harder it is today than it was when and like I'll say this, like they admit it. They're like, yeah, like I would not have made it today with the project that I brought to Sundance 20 years ago because it's just like it's so much more competitive. Shorts are probably the most competitive category at film festivals because, they're like a little bit more accessible than features and there's just way more people submitting. Coming out of the pandemic, a lot more people were writing and pursuing this. And that's amazing, but what sucks is that and I've seen a tweet which basically said that like there's so many people that are gonna be left behind because they can't keep up with this system of like maxing out your credit cards, going into debt, paying off your card, start again on a new project. Like, it is unsustainable. I put like half my wedding money towards paying off my last short instead of like having the full money to go on my honeymoon. And I was like, I need to figure out a lifestyle change to sustain this. But I wanted to open it up to questions from the audience before we wrap it up. If anyone has questions or if we answered everything you've ever been wondering about in your life.
I'll go. I have a lot of questions, but I'll choose one. I'm a person of questions. My name is Malaysia, and this has been very informative. Thank you, ladies, for taking the time out to do this for us. For someone, I wanted to ask, for someone who doesn't have like an open mic or a space to test these jokes out, what would you say would be a great, how else like could we test your jokes if you don't have an audience? In that way, like in an open mic.
When you say jokes, like you mean like you want to do stand-up comedy type of jokes,
not so
or
much like stand-up comedy, more like sketch comedy. Like if you're trying to kind of get into that medium, like what would be a good way to test those jokes?
First of all, you should talk to me afterwards because I have a lot of things to say about that. But I would say to you that like I will do introductions for you and then help you get a theater space to like put on your show and everything because that is how you do it. You do have to, first of all, like you could get a writers group together and then with the writers group you could like, if you're doing like sketch comedy, you could like read your sketches at the table and then if like majority of the people laugh, then it means that the audience is probably going to also laugh at that, and then so that's usually when you're like putting together your set list and you're kind of like choosing which ones, those would be the ones that go into the show, and then you have to. I think like with any live performance, like you kind of have to get in front of an audience, and then there are a lot of like open mics in town, not necessarily any for like sketch comedy or anything like that. There used to be some, but now there's not really. But there are I would say like start with like a writer's group first, and then just like use that to like build the sketches as good as you can before you like actually try to like put them up on stage. But for somebody who has injected a lot of like my jokes or things into my own movies or web series, I will say that it works really well. Like the stories like end up being like funny and stuff, and then people will laugh when they see it. So yeah, yeah, no problem.
I feel like you had enough.
Oh, no, I'm good, I'm good.
You should email us and we can answer
I
all
was about to say, please.
that.
No, please go.
Hey you guys,
Hi.
it's been so nice and informative, and can definitely feel you guys on the working a day job and then working after that job before that. I literally was talking to Meghan about this all the time. I wouldn't say today, no, all the time. But I did have a question about just when it comes to crowdfunding. You guys talk a lot about like audience first, crowdfunding second. How did you guys go about like one, defining your audience for each of your films, and then also kind of defining a bit of what the mission statement was? Like what were you telling people in order to get them invested? That's a big question, but I think it's important.
I'll kick it off just because like we talk
Yes.
about this in my day job. So yeah, I crowdfunded in 2018, and one of the big motivators for me was I wanted a really inclusive cast and crew, and this was right after Frances McDormand had that Oscar speech where she said inclusion writer. So I like took that and ran with it, and because I was working at an ad agency where like our productions were all like white dudes. And so I really wanted to have the opposite of that on my set. And so I applied an inclusion writer and hired all women and BIPOC crew, and then I did that on all my future projects. I had been doing that with my comedy stage shows, so I luckily had a little bit of a built-in audience from my previous work, even though this was my first film. So like I went back to that community. So whether it was asking people who attended my show to support the project, either financially or with in-kind donations, like we had people who donated artwork, music, etc. And then also the businesses that I had partnered with. Like I really like depended on the Austin community to get that short made, and for people to lend stuff, like give us spaces. So I think it took a while because I definitely didn't know my voice or what I was doing in New York. And then when I came down here and like continued working on my stage show, then I felt like, okay, now I'm ready to figure it out in like the film space. And this is the point of view I want to get across. And at that point, like I had built like this audience from another project. So the first project you do is just like that's foundation, I feel like. And you just have to know like, I like this is a two-way street, this is a relationship. Like I have to keep up with them. I'm sharing stuff with them. I'm keeping them posted on the life cycle of the project. I'm letting them know the next project I'm working on. Like I don't give up on them for as long as they're not giving up on me when it comes to like the people who've supported my comedy projects and films. So that's sort of how I approached it.
I was also gonna add that I felt like my first crowdfunding campaign also was like a foundation that I was like building for future people to like keep supporting me or something, or just following my movie journey and stuff. Because like I would say like I don't know if I really had like a mission statement or anything with mine. I just know that I think the only donations that I got maybe like 5 donations from people I didn't know who they were at all, but everybody else, like I knew who it was, so I felt like it was more of just like real, like people were just like, we want to support you for the first project. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say this is my first big crowdfunding thing, like for a personal project, and so it's pretty foundational for me too. And honestly, I'm really bad at defining audiences and being strategic about that stuff. So And I usually spend a lot of time in my bedroom or on my couch just thinking about who specifically I want to talk to. And with my film, I really wanted to speak to like my crush, and my aunties, my cousins, and like my younger self. And so I took that to my producers, and we all kind of like brainstormed from there, thinking about like, the Filipino diaspora, like the Asian American diaspora, the Paradise Hills community, just like really branching out from there. And I think when it came to our mission statement, since that is like something that Seed&Spark asked for, which I was really thankful for that, getting to position my project in such a concise way. I was really responding to, I think, my frustration with what a lot of like creators of color are asked to do, which is to often like, build stories like off of like trauma or migration or survival. And so that was like my chance to kind of like scream like, well, I want to make something about joy and stupidity and humor. And so, I don't know, that's just, in this case, it was just like me thinking like really strongly rooted in community and then speaking specifically to my community. And I think that allowed to be a pretty universal and substantial like mission statement.
Hi, my name is Marlisa Mendez, and I would like to know if maybe you could elaborate, speak a little about like your strategy when sharing your Seed&Spark. I know for me, I have a little bit of fear of, I feel like it's not going to reach enough people, but just would like to know what y'all did.
A big thing that we did, like leading up to the crowdfunding campaign, was that we, like among myself and our producing team, we identified all of like the VIPs in our lives, like whether that was like our family members or close friends that we knew were going to support us. And we contacted them ahead of time to tell them like when we were launching the campaign, showing them like a preview of the campaign page, and then actually like giving them like detailed instructions on how to donate, because my grandma was really confused and actually ended up making my parents do it. But that was like a big instrumental thing in like showing like momentum on our first day. And we had like a whole communications plan planned out like before. So we had like a Canva workspace where we had like all of our milestones, like all of our like, whether that was like the percentage reached or what you call it, our I guess the time lapse. Sorry, I'm a little bit like sleep deprived today, so I'm just like bleh. Yeah, I'd say like we were really scared of failing, so we just had a really robust communications plan, and we stayed in communication with each other over Slack, just to like stay nimble and flexible with how things would ebb and flow. And really it's just like being persistent and kind of swallowing your pride and willing to get in people's DMs and post a lot. So that was a big hurdle to jump and clear, I'd say. Yeah.
So I guess again, just to be like very transparent and everything, I feel like, so I actually reached my goal within like 3 days, and I didn't send a single email or DM a single person for this either, and this was because like I had a bunch of people share this. Like what I did do was I did post like an Instagram story, and I was like, hey, like if you're like in my close friends group or something, like on Instagram, like can you do me a favor and please just share this on your stories? You don't even have to donate, you could just share. And I got like so many reshares like just through that. And I think a lot of people saw it because it was just constantly being reshared. And so I think most of my people, and I don't even have like that many followers or anything on like Instagram or Facebook. But I think a lot of people just saw my posts and things, and which is like very surprising because I think I'm like whatever, like not, I feel like I don't get that many likes on things and stuff. So it was really just like using social media. But then when I met my goal, my producer pushed me really hard to do stretch goals. And then, which I'm so glad he ended up making me do that, because we were able to raise almost like an additional $7,000 just by doing that. But then I sent out about like 200 something emails, because I was just like, I feel like the people who were gonna donate already like donated, especially because I hit my goal and everything, and I didn't think anybody else was gonna keep donating. So then I sent out like the 200 to maybe 300 emails or something, but to be honest, like I probably only got like, not only, but I got like 10 people through sending like 300 emails. So that also tells you like how much sometimes you have to like really not neg people, what's that word? Nag people.
Were those mass BCCs or direct emails?
They were mass BCCs.
So we, also something I learned, like once I joined Seed&Spark, we, direct messaging, direct outreach, direct email is the most impactful, because it's personalized, it's, you know, like we tell people don't do mass BCCs, don't do newsletters. Of course, I did all those things. And then having that momentum, so if you hit your 30% within the first couple days or first few days of your campaign, you're 80% more likely to hit your goal. So like having that, the people like who will show up on day one, because then that convinces all the other people who don't know you as well to feel like a little bit better, or it's like risk aversion, you know, for them. So like, yeah, definitely direct emails that are personalized, and like people, you know, like people want to feel like you're not just like throwing like a copy and paste template, like that you're just like tweaking it a little, checking in with them, like really considering them. That's something I had to learn myself, because I was not used to that, because I was like, I have a day job, I don't have time to directly email people. But yeah, and then like the last couple days I slid into people's DMs, and that like time component really pushed them, and I got like 2,000 in the last day or two, and yeah, so it's like you sort of have to like game the system, but definitely like leverage the people that you know will show up, and then use people in your network as like your marketing team to share. And don't be scared.
Yeah, I think Kayla kind of mentioned this, but like something, if you look at my like PATSY short film Instagram handle, like I will also post like, we're 69% fun, because I think 69 is a funny number, but like we're 69% funded. So I would be like, we're 69% funded, and then like I actually did get more people coming and donating, because they were like, oh, I just saw that you were so close, and then I just like wanted to give more. So those progress status reports and stuff like that, like I think really help motivate people too.
I think we have time for like one last question, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Brian, and I want to say thank you for everything that y'all have touched on. It really resonates. And my question is, what was the key element when you were doing messaging for crowdfunding that connected with people, like the people who donated a lot of money that you may have gotten in contact with? What were they relaying back to you that really touched them? If it.
I think for me, like I gave the example of that one person that like donated $4,000 and haven't spoken to her. I did not direct message her or anything. I didn't even know she had that much money. And I mean, which was great, but I was just like, so I think it was more of like my story was like very vulnerable that I shared, and it was kind of very like autobiographical. So I think like people just like related to it, but I think I personally think that she's just somebody that like wants to support the arts and wants to like those are like the kind of people. And I did have like some people come up to me afterwards like saying like, I know people who want to fund movies and stuff like this, and you don't have to crowdfund like in the future, because I know like certain people, but like I think there are just like people out there that want to actually like support your goals. I know that's not like very much like a super helpful answer, but I think she honestly just like really wanted to see me succeed, and Because like when I did my stretch goal, she donated more. She's bought t-shirts and just like, it's very strange.
No, I mean, people love TV and movies, but not everyone is in the entertainment industry or does this. And so, like, if they see something where they're like, oh, I would watch the shit out of that, then they're like, yeah, this is a way that I can be like I get to see my name in the credits. Like, that's so cool. And yeah, like, you just have to tap into like people who either have disposable income or whatever they can share, $1 a day, and want to see cool shit get made, especially if you have, cool things to say and you're not, I don't know, full of shit. What would you say?
Honestly, I feel like it's within like the same sentiment where like a lot of like childhood friends and people I haven't spoken to in ages were really responding to what I was putting down, which was like the key messaging of my campaign was like I really wanted to make something for and by the community, and so people from the community were really responding to that, really in love with the idea.
Also going to show a snippet, which the dinner scene actually.
Oh, nice.
At the screening, so if anybody wants to come, it's going to be June 1st at the Spider House Ballroom at 8 p.m. So,
Cool.
thank you.
Yeah, and follow her at Yola Lu.
Yes.
You always promote yourself.
And, yeah, Yola Lu. And if you have any questions about like crowdfunding or anything, my DMs are open. So, for you guys. Yes.
Oh man. I'm continuing to show the short at festivals, so hopefully there's gonna be another one in Austin sometime soon or somewhere in Texas. We're actually screening at LA Asia Pacific and CanFest next, so I'm going to California tomorrow.
Nice.
Other than that, I'm just quietly writing and working and trying my best. So stay tuned for, I guess, updates when they actually materialize into things to show people. I'm on Instagram. It's Nanorisms. It's like mannerisms, but with an N instead of an M. It's a very old handle. So I'm there, hanging out. My DMs are also open to y'all, only y'all. So.
Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you, Meghan.
To the Austin Asian American Film Festival. Thank you to ArtUS Co. June 3rd Films, all of y'all for coming out. Really appreciate you taking the time to listen to their amazing creative stories and supporting indie film in the Austin scene. Yeah, keep it local.